Hey, Jen, good to see you.
Hello.
I just didn't know you were going to be able to join us today. That's very nice. That's very nice. Hello, Sonia.
Hello. Hi.
Hello, Anne.
Hi.
Carolyn, I can't see you yet, but I'm sure I'll get to see you in a minute.
She's having her lunch, she said.
Oh, okay. So keeping yourself nice while you eat your lunch. And Kath, hello. Terry, hello. If I haven't met you before, hello for the first time. And I'm also seeing some friendly faces.
Hi, everyone.
I've seen before. Good to see you, Kath. Take a minute to type in the chat where you're joining us from. Location's good. Name of your service is good. And I also encourage people to share the name of the traditional custodians of the land that they're on as well, if you know it, because I'm learning lots. I'm learning lots about all of the different language groups and places and traditional owners. So if you share something with me like that, I can keep on learning. I'm on Biripi country today. Beautiful Port Macquarie is where I'm joining you from, and I'm sad to say there is a crew of people with chainsaws chopping down one of our big favourite trees in the yard next door. Not only is it noisy, but I'm also thinking about those koalas that I have seen in that tree. And I'm thinking, oh, it's not very nice. Now I can see a whole heap of houses on the hill instead of a nice tree too. So it's all about me. So where is everybody joining from today? I'm looking in the chat. I'm looking to see where you are coming from. Hey, Jen, I know you're in Newcastle, the beautiful country of the Awabakal people. Anne's joining us from Penrith Women's Health Centre. Good to see you. And Penrith Women's Health Centre have, what we might say, completed their Service Excellence accreditation and working through the last little phase of that. So it's really nice to have you here, Kath, to be meeting you. And Catholic Care Wilcannia Falls is, of course, on the beautiful country of the Wiradjuri people, the largest Aboriginal nation in Australia. Yes, it is. Terry, where are you joining us?
Were you there when I was out there, Kath?
Yes.
Yes. That's right. Hi, how are you going?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I didn't recognise you with the palm tree in the background.
Yes, I'd only been in the role about 2 weeks, I think, when you turned up. Yes.
Yeah.
How are you, Jenny?
I'm well, really well.
We've still got Jeneline with us. You didn't kill her. You didn't kill her on the Catholic Care Wilcannia Falls assessment. It was a big one.
I hope we killed her with kindness.
Oh, you did. And you killed us. You tried to kill us with good food as well, which we always love. Hello, Margie.
Hi, hello everybody.
Right, lovely to see you, and thanks very much for joining us. And I'm recording. I just always have to look to make sure I am recording, because there are people who love to watch this in their spare time. I believe this is what they do on a Saturday night. They just turn on the Wire session on a Saturday night, and they grab a bit of cheese and a shardy and lots of entertainment for them. What's it all about today? There's a couple of things I wanted to talk to you about today. Can you actually hear the chainsaw? Just do something with your head. Oh, that's good, because it's quite loud from where I'm sitting, and I thought I might put my headphones on if I needed to. Hello, Jill. I'd just like to say that a number of our colleagues has joined us there. Brilliant. 3 things that I would like to share with you today. Firstly, I wanted to just confirm that everybody knows about the money that's available to support service excellence. If you've already done it, too bad, you're not getting any more. But if you're in the throes of getting ready for service excellence and you're under 5 mil in revenue, like me, you will be able to apply for a service excellence support grant, which I'm going to show you where to find the information on that in a moment, in case it's been hidden from you. We're also going to talk about the very best evidence today. So I know that lots of you are in the throes of putting up your evidence into the portal, or thinking on how you're going to demonstrate your awesome systems and all the great things that you're doing. And I don't want that to be lost in a great big pile of documents. So I want to talk to you about creative ways of showing us, your assessors, what is happening in your service in relation to what's working well and what system improvements you're making. So I'm going to bring you also a bit of systems thinking, a bit of how we organise our minds as assessors to be able to see the picture of your service. So that's a bit of insight into how I'm talking about my brain anyway. I can't speak for my colleagues Lisa and Jill. I don't know how their brain works to be able to bring it all together and to be able to see whether you've got well-functioning systems in place or not. It's kind of magic how it happens. It takes at least 2 days, let me tell you. So those of you who we visit for 3, 4 and 5 days, we've got it, we're clear on it, but we've only got a couple of days. Gee, it's hard. So I'm bringing you the internal workings of my mind and how I see systems so that you'll be able to see them too. How's that sound? They're my 3 things. So let's start with the money. I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show you where they have hidden the information about the ACES support grant. If you know about it, that's really brilliant. I won't take a moment here. So what I do is I go into this page here, which is Homelessness New South Wales, and I click on industry partnerships. You've probably got an easier way to find the industry partnership, but that's where I go. I click on there. And when I scroll down there, I see the Service Excellence, the ACES tab. I click on that. And then I go down, I know, again, right? So then I click on the ACES Help Centre. Click. And this is where it gets very exciting, but only if you scroll all the way to the bottom. And there it is, the ACES support grant. And what is it? Well, let's have a little look. We will provide financial support to enable funded services with a revenue of less than 5 mil to meet the requirements of ACES by June 2024. And this is one-off financial support up to 16,000. Woo! To homelessness service providers undergoing ACES for the first time. So if you're in your second cycle, forget about it. But if you're in your first cycle, isn't that exciting? Now, the other thing that's exciting is that it is a 1-pager. I'm lying, it's a 2-pager, but it's such a simple form here. Let me show you that. I hope this opens up okay so you can see it. Let me know if you're not seeing this nice, easy little application form here. You basically put your details in the top, you tell them what you want.
Whoever's eating your lunch, we can hear your cutlery and your chewing.
Isn't that nice? I think it's Carolyn. I'm getting a bit jealous. And then you get the sign-offs. So look, that's practically 1 page. And here's the eligible items, which is also exciting. You can get it to pay for your external assessors' costs. You can get it to pay for consultants, engagement of additional staff to complete the ACES activities, staff travel that might be required, implementing new policies and procedures, and any other costs, such as you might need to have a new governance manual, you might need to workshop a risk plan, those sorts of things there. All right, so I think that's...
Marie, is it only open for homelessness, or is there other orgs that can get assistance?
It is open to specialist homelessness services.
Mm.
So it's open to any organisation in New South Wales that's under that sort of regulatory requirement that they need to be Service Excellence accredited by the 30th of June 2024. All right, so there's many of those that are on in our Zoom room today. But if you're Penrith Women's Community Health, for example, no. Okay, unless Penrith Women's Health has a specialist homelessness service as part of its offering. Didn't think so, Anne. Sorry about that. If we hear of any money that's coming for women's health, we
Thank you.
will let
Much
you know.
appreciated.
All right, but that's I wanted people to know about that, because sometimes with this kind of money, if it runs out, too bad, so sad. So be on the front foot and get that in. So really, it looks to me like all you need is a quote from your, you know, provider of support. If you're going to get, let's say you're going to get a consultant that you work with in your network to do some work for you, get them to give you a quote, and then those are the costs that get put in. So I've never seen such a nice, easy grant submission form in my life. So get in there. Okay, let's talk about the very best evidence. Those of you that have already gone through your process and you have uploaded evidence, I don't want you to feel like, oh, maybe we made some mistakes. No, all right, it's your story. That's what's important. You tell the story of your service through your evidence. Okay, so I wanted to help you to demystify some of that there, because if you're working in the portal, we all know what the portal is, I think, the BNG portal, which is a great tool for getting your accreditation all organised with your evidence and everything. If you're working in there, you might be overwhelmed by what it seems to be saying that you need to have in terms of evidence. And I don't want you to feel like that. Anything that's coming at you like that is guidance. It's not a must do. So please think of all that as helpful guidance. And today also is helpful guidance for how you're going to tell your story through your evidence. So I'm just going to bring up my PowerPoint, because I did a little bit of preparation for today. I'm not displaying it properly, so I'm not all that prepared. But, evidence is what we use to confirm our judgment that there is something in place against each requirement. So we need evidence to be able to clearly show why we've selected to give you a tick, or why we've selected to give you, you know, like a cross, right? So evidence is really important in this process, and we are, as assessors, we're very, very experienced at being able to efficiently but effectively review evidence. Okay, so we know what we're looking for, and in some cases we know what should be in place. Like if we do the best job of understanding your service and understanding the context of how and where and who you're providing services to, then we would expect to see certain things, right? So if you're a big local government corporation, then we would expect to see, you know, some very high level plans, and we would expect to see myriad of ways that you communicate with your community, and we would expect you to be fairly open and transparent about rates and other sort of, you know, financial modelling that you go through, because that's part of the Local Government Act. Right, so we understand the sorts of things that you have to do. If you're a small service, such as a women's refuge with one coordinator and you know, some casual staff, we would see something very, very different in terms of the way that you have plans and the way that you communicate with your community and the way that you are transparent, you know, financially. So we have first to get an understanding of you and the context that you're operating in, your operating environment, and what it is that your purpose is and what your intention is about the services and programs that you provide. So we do a lot of that understanding you before we come on site. We do that through meeting with you, through talking with you, through these opportunities here, through having a look at your website, strategic plan. We have information sessions with your staff, and we start to get a feel for who you are. So we do need to see evidence in the context of who you are, because you're not like any other service. So that's a very important first bit of work that we do. So what are we looking for? We are looking for objective evidence. We're looking for evidence that kind of stands alone, you know, that it doesn't need someone to explain it for us to be able to see if it meets the requirements of the standard. We're looking for proof that there's control over the activities that you provide. All right, so that's the other good thing about strong evidence is that it shows us that this is what you intend to do. Let's say the board has an idea, a vision, a dream, and then there's documentation or evidence that supports that that's what's actually happening, right? So evidence shows that there is an intention and that it's documented that way for guidance for the staff, for example, if we're talking about policies and procedures. That the policy or procedures are implemented consistently. So we like to see evidence that shows us that this is consistently implemented across a range of staff, across a range of sites, across a range of programs. Right? So if you've got evidence, for example, well, this is how we do it at this site, we do it differently at this site, we do it differently at this site, but it's something that could be consistent, such as some HR processes, recruitment selection, we'd like to see evidence that if that's developed at the governance and management level, that it is consistently implemented in practice across those sites. All right, we don't like to see that, oh yeah, no, that's how they do it at head office, but we don't do it here, we don't do it like that here. So evidence is helpful when it shows us that it's consistently implemented across a range of people, across a range of sites. We need evidence that shows that you're compliant with the relevant standard or the relevant indicator in the framework. And we need to see that you're compliant with the relevant legislation, also with the relevant regulatory requirements, such as those from your funding bodies or other government departments. And evidence shows us that your planned outcomes are being achieved. So we might see things in your operational plan, and we see evidence that those are being implemented as intended. So, you know, that's the importance of evidence in the auditing process. This looks like a busy sort of a slide, but it's helpful to understand the different types of evidence. So we could categorize all of the different things that you might put on the portal or that you might put on the table when we come. We can group them into documentary, so you'd know what they would be. They'd be your policies, procedures, templates, all those things there, anything on paper pretty much. And then digital evidence, which is all of those things but would be presented to us in digital forms. All right, these can even be things like your website, some social media databases, registers, apps that you're using to communicate with clients, all those digital forms that are becoming much more common now. Verbal and observational, so this is interviews that we might have with key people when we come on site, and observations that we make as we move around your sites. There's a lot that we see actually when we've got our assessor goggles on. I feel like I've got my assessor goggles on all the time. Even if I'm coming for a cup of coffee, or even if I'm coming to meet you at your site, you know, before we sign a service agreement, I've got my assessor goggles on. I see all sorts of things. So everything that we see from the time that we get out of our car is pretty much evidence that aligns with one of the indicators. Think of what we might see when we're walking up to your front door. You know, I see things like how our clients welcomed. I see things like what's the parking like? What are the pathways like? Are they safe? I see things like notice boards. I see opening hours. Then I come into the waiting room and I see, oh, let's go take a step back. What if I can't get into the door? What sort of way do I get into the door? How secure is the building? Is there a doorbell? Is there some way of being able to let people know that I'm there? Is it when I get into the waiting room, am I seeing images of different sorts of groups of people that might be representative of me? Are there things that make it easy for me to see what I might need to do when I come in? Do I have to sign in? You know, do I have to ring a bell? Those sorts of things. So there's lots that we see through our opportunity to observe, which is why we come on site. Physical mostly takes place when we do something like a site inspection. That's a bit more formal than just having a walk around and eyeballing things. Observational is a purposeful sort of walk through the building with a range of indicators on a list, a checklist, and we'll be ticking those off as we go. We're checking things that are important, such as work health and safety legislative requirements. We're checking things like fire extinguishers, exit lighting, there might be a requirement for you to have non-slip flooring, all those sorts of things there. And artifacts and symbols, this is an interesting one because artifacts and symbols sometimes are really good at promoting your purpose and your vision. And what I've seen in some places is things, and I've written them down here, is, in fact, just yesterday I was in an Aboriginal service in Grafton and I walked into their meeting room and they had a massive painting on the wall of a tree, and I said, "Oh, this is a healing tree, is it?" And they said, "Yes, yes, it is, because this is a room where we do all of our programs and have all of our meetings. So a healing tree is part of our part of our, you know, ethos and our cultural connection to the place here." So that was really nice to see, and a good piece of evidence about how they promote culture and their purpose and their connection with the place. So there's different types of evidence that you could consider showing us. So you can get some, in some ways, get way away from the portal. The portal might be just where you put your documentary evidence. Now, to break that down and to talk to you now in real terms about the sorts of things that you could show us, and people might not think about things like presentations. I once did an assessment at a very large service in Victoria, and for the morning of the first day, they had their teams come and make presentations. That happened as well when I had a look at Tamworth Family Support Services. They gave their staff an opportunity to share a case study that they were particularly proud of. And that was just a verbal presentation, you know, nothing flash, but a way for people to be involved and to talk about things that they're most proud of. Media clips now, you know, there's often videos and media clips that show your involvement in the community. That will be really interesting to us as evidence.
Marie?
Yes, Kate?
Sorry, sorry to interrupt. I'm just getting some really bad feedback. Is everybody on mute?
I'm not hearing that, Kay. I'm sorry. I have got a chainsaw going. No, I'm not. Is anyone else hearing that? Give me a sign to say if it's sounding okay to you. Kay, that's awful.
Well, it's just this kind of groaning sort of sound I'm getting.
I think it's the chainsaw.
It could be the chainsaw.
Oh, it's the chainsaw. Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm going to put
like
my
feedback. It sounds like feedback, but I think it's the chainsaw.
Hey, you weren't. I don't think you were here at the start when I said.
No, I'm
I've got
sorry.
a crew of people chopping down a tree in the yard.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Yeah, I did. I was a couple of minutes late. I apologise. So I missed that. Thank you. Yeah, probably is the chainsaw.
It might be a bit better with my headphones on. Maybe can block it a bit more. It's awful. It's very sad. It's such a nice tree too. All right, back to where we were. But thanks for letting me know. That's good to hear if it's not working for you. Not that I can do much about it. So what do you think about this list here? Is this what you would have expected? Screenshots now. Sometimes there's amazing things happening in your work and people create things, and you might just take a screenshot of that and you can upload that to the portal. You can show me that when we get there. Things like registers that are usually quite large and live, you know, like if you're using a compliance register or if you're using a risk register or if you're using a complaints register or some sort of HR register, don't feel like you want to put those on the portal. I wouldn't if I was you, because sometimes those things include personal and sensitive information. We can look over your shoulder when we come. People from Catholic Care and people from Penrith Women's would be able to let you know how we did that, whether that felt okay. We also look at the client record management system, whatever you're using. Sometimes lots of you are using Sims, and we do the same thing. We sit with you and we get one of your users to, so one of the users of your system to show us around the sorts of things that we would need to see, because there's a number of indicators that talk about things that we're most likely to find in a client file, or we're most likely to find in a HR file, for example, right? But don't feel like you have to put anything that's personal and sensitive or live up on the portal. We'll just look at those when we come on site. We talked to you about that. We will talk to you about that in our pre-assessment chat. Yeah, I think that should be fairly clear. That there's a whole big range of things that can be considered evidence. Questions can come at any time. Just want to see what's next.
Yeah, Marie, I've got a question.
Go for it.
So fairly consistently when you hear auditors talk, they say don't give us too much, like don't swamp us with your entire hard drive or whatever you've got there.
That's right.
So, and you know, some of the things that might be good evidence can be, well, I don't know, for instance, maybe if we're talking about planning, that maybe you'd have like a series of planning meetings or something. Maybe you sort of, you know, triangulate. So you're confirming, you know, you did this but you end up with quite a few different bits of evidence, so the approach I've been following, which I hope is worthwhile, is kind of to like, as you've said, tell a story. So like, if I use the example of recruitment, like we've just followed the path of one person. So we've got kind of all of the documents that we use to recruit one particular person that I'll load up as evidence, assuming that if you want to see that across the whole organisation, that you would ask for that when you come out and see us. That's a reasonable approach? Because I don't want to give you 25 people's recruitment documents, that sort of thing. So yeah, so like treating it as an example is a reasonable thing to do. Yeah, okay, cool.
Just give me one. If I want to see more. So Kay used a very fancy pants auditor word there. Did you pick it up? That Kay has been one of those people. I think there's a couple of people in the room who've gone and done the auditor training. Good on you. And
what word did I use?
What did I use? Know, come on.
No, I don't. What are you talking about?
Starts with T, ends in wrangulation.
Oh, no. That's from a former life, actually.
Triangulation, and I'm just about to start using that word myself, which is still a bit of my thunder. Yes, because we are looking for proof that you meet that requirement. Remembering in version 8, anyone, how many indicators are there in version 8 of these standards? Come on, quickly, fastest finger, type it into the chat for me if you're clever. You will know version 8 has how many indicators. Is anybody going to get it?
98. Is there 98?
That's version 6.
I'm a little bit behind the 8 ball, right?
No, not 99. That's close. 112. Kay knows. 112.
And that's because Marie presented to us yesterday.
Can I add one thing there, Kay? Is that, no, we don't want to see all 25 recruitment, but from a register point of view, I want to see a register that you've got everyone's mandatory checks in place. So as well as, you know, 1 or 2 employee folders.
Yeah, and like our plan would be to show you that digital tool on site. So someone will take Marie on a tour of that. You can have a look at how we do our mandatory records. Yeah.
Beautiful. That's a good point. So when we are looking at evidence, we are getting evidence in many different ways. And good auditors, such as the ones you're seeing here, will triangulate the evidence, which means we will get proof that that indicator is in place in 3 different ways. So before we give you a FIP, which is a fully in place, before we give you a FIP, which is like a big tick, right? We would want to be 100%, in some cases 200% confident that it was in place, that you were meeting that requirement. I've got the fringe from hell at the moment, ladies and Terry. I'm growing it, and it's really annoying. So I'm sorry to be doing that. But some people who've grown their fringes out before will totally understand what I'm going through. All right. So we triangulate the evidence, which means we get proof that it's in place in at least 3 different ways. And sometimes we're lucky we can see it in 4 different ways, and we go, oh yeah, I know that they're doing that 100% I can stand beside that tick. But we want you to be doing all of that before we come, so you can stand beside your tick as well, so you know what you've got in place. So here are our very official rules of evidence. And this is, if you're ever working as an auditor, these are the rules that your evidence would need to meet. Okay, so when you're putting up all your stuff into the portal, sorry, we'll do a little slow down there. When you're putting all your things into the portal, we need to make sure that we have enough. Now, you're going to see this rule of three, my rule of three, pop up a number of times when it comes to evidence. If you're thinking about how many documents should I put up, I want you to put your very best documents up. I want you to put up the ones that are most valid. I'll come back to sufficiency in a minute, and I'll say that I reckon 3 pieces will be enough, but I want you to think about validity and relevance. So it has to relate to the practice under examination. It has to relate to the standard. So if the indicator will say provides a healthy workplace, and you're thinking, okay, what evidence could we show to prove to our assessor that we provide a healthy workplace? And if I said I'm limiting you to 3 pieces of evidence, what would you want to show me? What would you want to put on the table as proof, or put into the portal as proof that that is there? So if anybody wants to unmute themselves and say, well, this is what I would put up. If I had to show you in 3 ways that we provide a healthy workplace, this is what I would do.
A wellbeing policy.
Sonia, that's fabulous. Exactly. Yes, that's awesome. What else would you show me?
I would show you some staff schedules that show our flexibility of hours.
Flexible workplace in practice. Very good. Very good. What's one more thing that you could show or upload that would prove that you have a healthy workplace?
EAP policy.
Ah, great. So the employee assistance policy. Beautiful. Correctamundo. That is enough. Stop. Stop. Okay. Move on to the next indicator, because you've got 112 that you need to really think about. So those would be 3 awesome pieces of evidence. That would be fantastic. So what we sometimes get when it comes to sufficiency, people get concerned that they need to put all their documents on there, and they might upload their whole share drive, their whole
Yeah,
their organisational documents onto the portal, which is more of a problem. Assessors, I'm talking to you now. What do you think the problem is when we get, 20 pieces of evidence for each of those 112 indicators?
Time to go through them all, and time to pick out which is the best piece of evidence that we will put up, in our report.
That's right. And the picture that you're trying to tell us about your awesome quality systems gets diluted. Because we're sitting at home, we do our document review before we come on site, and we are having to make the decision which of those 20 we open, because we do not have time. This is a sampling process. We do not have time to open all 20. So we're making guesses from your naming conventions, which we don't really understand some of your naming conventions either. So if there's abbreviations in the titles of documents, you can imagine we're clicking on things and thinking, is this valid? Is this going to be relevant? So it can make it quite difficult if you're not thinking about the pieces of evidence you want to put up in terms of the story that they're telling us. Okay, so just you can go more than 3, but if you're getting up around 10, 15, 20, recently we did one where there was, in some indicators, there were 25 documents. So that, they're making it difficult to know how you're thinking and what you would like us to see through your evidence. We need your evidence to be up to date. Again, here it comes. Rule of 3. In the last 3 years, if your documentation is dated in the last 3 years, that looks to us to be current. Where this is difficult for organisations, if let's say you've got a document you put up that you've been using since 2017, and it hasn't gone through any changes, you might think, I'm going to put that up there. That's fine if it hasn't gone through any changes, but for us to see evidence which is dated in the last 3 years, it gives us an impression that it's current and it has been reviewed and it's been subject to continuous improvement. Okay, so that's a bit how we think about currency. It needs to be, your evidence is corroborated, because that's where we talked about that triangulation, right? So we would see a document, we would read a document, we would want to corroborate through interviews that that was happening in practice. Okay, so if you say this is our recruitment process in a recruitment procedure, and then we interview a new staff member, we would ask them what the process was that they went through to become an employee, and they should be telling us that it's the same as what we read in the document. Great when those things match. Okay. If they don't match, it's not like we say to the employee, no, stop, you're wrong, you're wrong. It says here 2.5 that should be happening. Why didn't that happen for you? We just, okay, great. So we just will see where there's a lack of consistency between document and practice. Systematic, it's great when the evidence sort of shows us that there's a system in place. More on that in just 1 second. And evidence should be sustainable. In fact, your practice within a good system should be sustainable. It shouldn't rely on just one person. It shouldn't rely on just the skills of one person. You know, where an organisation is strong, the evidence that they've got well-functioning systems relies more on the parts of the system themselves rather than one person, because people leave, you know, people move on, they move upwards, those sorts of things. So, you know, if someone says to me, so if I'm looking for something like checks of fire equipment, let's say, something important that really could be a risk to your organisation, it wouldn't be sustainable if you said to me something like, oh, well, whoever's got time on the day, so we do that, yes, we do that, and it's done by whoever's got time on the day when we feel like we're going to do it. And I'll just say, no, that's not part of a system, okay? It's not, it doesn't rely on just one person maybe having time. It should rely on there being a process that's documented, a process that people know about, that's communicated, those sorts of things there. Right? So, and if that in thinking, you'd want to be able to show us things in your evidence of, you know, service delivery models that relate to best practice, that are evidence-based. Okay, so that sort of evidence that shows us that you've developed your services and programs based on evidence is also fabulous for us to see when it comes to your service delivery and practice models. Right. So when I'm getting a bit sort of technical, I suppose, with you about rules of evidence, but it is important to be thinking a little bit like we are thinking when we are coming and having a look at your evidence. As you're putting it up, this could be helpful information for you. But what's enough? What's enough? Pretty much that rule of 3. Pretty much thinking about that rule of 3 when it comes to sufficiency. There's rules of 3 all across auditing. So, you know, hopefully that's helpful. It gets a bit fancy pants at that end, doesn't it? But it is interesting. If you're got an auditing mind like some of us do in the room. Okay, my last little thing that I want to share before I get into answering some questions for you is, let me have a look at you. There we go. It's just nice to see faces, isn't it? Even black boxes with names on it. It's fine. I want to share with you our little model around systems thinking. Okay, so I've been working as an auditor for a long time. And I know things have kind of moved on to, you know, complexity theory and all those sorts of things. And systems thinking might be a bit of an old thought now about how to put things together in an organisation, but it still works for me. And when I'm coming in and I'm assessing you, this is how I'm thinking. This is how I organise my thoughts about have they got things in place sufficiently for me to be able to tick these 112 indicators? So I'm going to share that with you now in an easy way. And I encourage you to get a pen and a piece of paper. If you can get your hands on a Texta or a Sharpie, even better. If it's a crayon, doesn't matter. Whatever you've got to hand, get yourself a piece of paper and scribble along with me here. Because I think this will be helpful in the way that you think about your evidence and the way that you're going to tell us about your amazing systems. So what you'll see when you have a look at the Service Excellence Framework and you see that there's a standard and then there's a couple of indicators under each standard, this is the thinking that's behind how that's been put together. But this is also very good thinking for how organisations are put together as well. So on your piece of paper, I want you to draw a circle in the middle. It's going to look a bit like this. I don't want to lock you down. I want you to be freestyle about this, but this is what it's going to look like when you finish drawing your picture. There's 5 circles around it. There's a circle in the middle and there's 5 circles around it. Now, if you think about each one of the standards in the Service Excellence Framework, you know that we start up the end of planning, and then we go to governance, and then we go to policies and procedures, risk management, we go then down to contract management, financial management, all those ones there, right? We eventually get down to HR, cultural inclusion, and down to service outcomes, right? All across the front. They're what I'm talking about. Now, if you are rocking it out of the park, you're going to have a system around each one of those standards. And this is what your system would look like. So let's choose risk, because that is a system that's quite underdeveloped. When we come out to organisations, assessors, would you agree? We find the system looking after risk in the organisation to sometimes be underdeveloped. So I'm using that one. So in the centre circle, just write risk. So this is the system that's protecting you, because risk management is really about keeping the organisation safe, isn't it? So let's use a risk management system. Have you got a system for managing risk? Let's see. If you have, everything that happens to keep the organisation safe in terms of risk management will be documented. So the first bubble says documented. It's a very important part of any quality system to have all the things written down. So we would want to see evidence that you've documented your system for managing risk. And that document might be a risk management framework, as an example, right? Here's our risk management framework. Might be our risk plan. Okay. Now, the very next circle around there is implemented. So everything that's written down, everything that's documented should be implemented in practice. In a good system, we'll see that connection between documented and implemented. So everything about risk management is documented, and everything that's documented, guess what? It actually happens. Yeah, it actually happens exactly like that, like we've written it down. And that is unusual, because these things get out of step with each other. So documents and implementation can sometimes get a little out of step. That's quite normal, but we've got to keep a check on that. So good systems are documented, good systems are implemented in practice. Next circle, communicated. So everything that happens about risk management is communicated to all the people who need to know. And we will communicate in many different ways. So the best ways in an organisation to communicate everything that happens about risk management is probably orientation, is probably job descriptions, is probably training, could even be policy and procedure documents, all right? So how are we communicating with our staff all the things that we want to have them help us with to do with risk management? And are we communicating in a way that they would know and understand? Or do we have a very, very, text-heavy policy and procedure and really expecting people to sit down and read that? No, you've got to communicate it in ways that people would be able to understand. Everyone, because everybody has a role to play in risk management, don't they? All right, so we've got documented, implemented, communicated. The next circle is D for delegated. So it means every single thing that happens about risk management has somebody's name next to it. Okay, so you know what happens with important things that need to be done that are not delegated? What happens? They don't get done. They don't get done. It reminds me of where my mum used to go every Saturday morning to visit my nana. And she would leave the house and she would say, right, you mum, I want this place cleaned up by the time I get back. And off she'd go. And we would sit there all morning and watch cartoons and nothing would get done, and then we get into trouble. But if she had given us a bit of a roster, like you're doing that room, you're doing that room, you're doing that room, it would have happened. So delegation. And it's got to be delegated to people who have the skills and to people who know that that's their job. A lot of times I've interviewed staff and I've sort of said, okay, so who's the fire warden? Who is it? Is it Sally? No, she's not here anymore. I'm not sure. We'll find out for you. And I think, no. Okay, so all the things that are happening to look after risk in the organisation have to be delegated to someone who can do it, who has the time to do it, and who knows it's their job. So it might be delegated in someone's job description, or it might be delegated on a poster on the notice board. Here's our fire warden, or here's our work health and safety team, or here's who to report hazards to, or whatever it is to do with your risk management. Okay. The other way that you delegate responsibility for risk is probably in your risk plan, where you have who's the responsible officer for some of those controls. So that's another way that your functions within risk management might be delegated. But it is important. If you want something done, you have to delegate it. Mum. And the last one, this is so very important, this circle, and this is the one that we see most often organisations don't get time to do, but it is very important. Who's going to answer this question? It starts with E. Not my team, you're all too clever. Someone else. Starts with E.
Evaluated.
Woo! And you get an extra points. Evaluated. A very good system is periodically, I'm just going to say periodically, because I'm not going to tell you when you're going to evaluate your systems, but they should be regularly looked at to see what? To see if they are documented, implemented, communicated, and delegated, if that's all working well. There are certainly signs, if you have even informal evaluation of your systems, even if you just chat at your team meetings about how our systems are working, right? And people will say, oh, I think this bit's a bit crap and that's not working well, and our documents really need review because they're a bit out of date with legislation. However it happens, you are looking for ways to make that system stronger, and you do it through looking at those 5 things. Now, I want you to draw a dotted line from your E, from your evaluated bubble. It can land anywhere, your dotted line, to a little square. And inside that square, I want you to write CQI. Because when you evaluate your systems, you identify opportunities for continuous quality improvement. And on it goes. All right, so when you have a look next time at the indicators under each standard in that framework, you're going to see an indicator that says, is it documented? And you're going to see an indicator that says, is responsibility delegated? And you're going to see an indicator that says, is evaluation undertaken to see if that's working properly? So you can see the systems thinking behind the structure of the framework. But any strong organisation is going to have well-functioning systems around each of those important functions in the organisation. Risk is one. You could change that centre bubble to say finance. You could change it to say recruitment. You could say anything. And if you had a system around it, you know that it's going to be working quite well. So that's why when we're looking at evidence, we are looking for documents and we are looking for people to tell us this is how it happens. And we're looking for ways that you train and you inform your staff about what you want them to do within those systems. all right? Because it's true that it's the systems that run the business and the people run the systems. All right, so the people are the best people to tell you about how those systems are working, aren't they? That's all from me. 10 minutes left for questions. Come on, what's on your mind when it comes to accreditation? Anything?
Yeah, earlier we talked about registers and not putting it all on the BNG portal. Are you okay if I just put like the skeleton of a register onto the portal so you can see the headings?
Yeah.
And then on the day you come and look at the content, or would you rather see the content beforehand?
No, that's a really good approach, as long as it doesn't cause you any more work.
No.
If we see a blank anything, on the portal, is what I write down in my notebook when I'm doing my document review is I'll have a look at a completed blah blah. So if you put a blank register up there, I'll go have a look at completed register.
Yeah. And at the last webinar, the BNG guy, he said that we can use hyperlinks or something to the source location. So is that okay by you as well?
Absolutely.
Yes, please. I'm doing yours. Yes, please.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's you get the option to upload a document, or you get the option to put in a link to a website or share drive or something like that. So that's really,
I might
really
do
helpful.
that too. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
That works well. What else? Anything? I think Margie might be joining us for the first time, so I wanted to let you know that you are seeing Lisa is one of our assessors. Give a wave, Lisa. Jill has got herself turned off, but Jenaline is there. She's one of our assessors. And Jill McFadden may or may not turn her video back on. I don't know. It depends on if she's on a work mode or a farm mode, because Jill lives on a working farm, so sometimes she's in farm mode, so I let her have her video. Hello, Jill. Hello, Jill. And everybody else that's joining us is our lovely clients who are going through service excellence, different phases. So there you go. There you go. Other questions?
No, I just want to say hello and thank you. I found it extremely helpful. I'm one of those people that's upload too many documents because I just simply couldn't choose. And secondly, I have felt overwhelmed by doing that. So it's really good to hear that the rule of three is excellent. I have never heard that before. And so that's excellent. The only other thing that I'm sort of trying to get my head around is we have 4 sites across the whole state, like many of you would, and they all operate quite uniquely with some consistencies from, high-level org stuff. Sorry about the background noise.
That's all right. Just tell them to shush, Margie.
It happens to be our CEO. So...
Tell them you're talking to your assessor.
We're doing the right thing by preparing, but I suppose I'm interested in some sites are a little bit more savvy in the audit space than others, and how does the assessor view a whole of org compliance component and then the individual services? How do you amalgamate that, or how do you approach it? Yeah. Well,
this is how I approach it, Margie. Margie's from Barnardo's, I think. Yeah, just to let you guys know. This is how I approach it. There are certain things that you would want to know are consistently implemented across your sites, and they will be things that are helping to protect you from risk, right? So work health and safety standards that are really important will be consistent, and that's our expectation too. At a site level, we do expect to see that things would be different because they're providing either a different service or they're in a different environment, they're working with different clients. And so we often see formal approaches in some sites and informal approaches in other sites. You know, team meetings is a really interesting one as well, and how people communicate and report things is sometimes informal versus formal, right? But we would need to see that it's effective. So if for example, team meetings, if they say, oh, look, we just sort of have meetings when we need to, or, you know, we're really open door here and we just discuss things. And as long as I get a sense that that's working for the staff, we would say it's informal but effective. Not informal but effective, informal and effective, sorry. Okay, so it's actually working well however it is implemented. But your intention at the management level is, with team meetings, is that staff have the opportunity to collaborate, share ideas and talk about improvements and those sorts of things. So the staff will tell us how that's happening, right? But if your intention is every week there's going to be a team meeting and every Monday morning there's going to be a team huddle, well, then we would expect to see that at every site.
Yeah, okay. That's
Yeah, but no, there's going to be lots of differences. There'll be differences across everything.
Yeah.
Depending on the site. But we view everything through a risk lens, Margie. So if we think it's causing you a drama, if we think it's going to cause you a problem, then we would rather sort of identify it as a partially in place or a not in place than to say, oh, well, it doesn't happen here, but it happens at the other three. No, we wouldn't do that. We look at everything through the lens of risk.
Okay.
You'll be looking at position descriptions, won't you?
Lisa will, yes.
Yeah, as a, you know, on a sample basis. Would you be sampling both at the homelessness service level as well as corporate level?
Well, we get you to select the personnel files that we look at and we ask for a range.
Yeah.
So because we're having a focused look at your specialist homelessness service, we'd probably like to see one that sat in there.
Yeah.
But you could show us, the range I like to see is levels, like if you're in a hierarchical organisation, someone here and someone there, someone new and someone who's been there a while.
Yeah.
And if you can give us a couple across 2 different programs, that's great, because again, we're looking for a pattern of performance. We're looking for consistency.
Yeah. So at corporate level as well as the service level.
Yeah.
Yeah. How many
Doesn't
position descriptions would you look at?
We look for 5. We look at 5, but we generally have a pattern of performance after looking at 3. But we ask you to pull 5 out.
Okay. And we choose which ones, do we? Okay.
Yeah. In a previous session on the wire, we did share our HR file audit tool. So I don't mind to sling that to you if it's going to be easier than going looking in the resources on the website, because there's resources that we've popped on the website for each of our sessions. Was it the last one, Lisa, that we talked about auditing?
Yeah, so can I just reiterate that if you go to the Highwire website and you go up, sorry, am I not loud enough?
No.
If you go to the Highwire website and you go up to the top hand side resources, there's a tab there that says Highwire ACES client. You can log in there. It's got all of the recordings, all of the resources loaded in there. And the password is Highwire with a capital H, ASES, all one word, but ACES is all caps. So I'll send that out again when I send out that the recording is up. So it does take me a few days to get that loaded up. So, but everything is there. So you can watch it, you can download everything there.
Just also, Bob, okay, also to let you know that it's only for our clients. It's not for everyone who comes through our website. So we've put it password protected for that reason. And because some organisations here through this forum are sharing some resources and templates of their own, so we don't want those to be sort of subject to the public domain. It's just for our very special group of people that we're working with. And we're up to about, I don't know, 15 organisations, probably getting closer to 20 organisations now that would be part of this group. So we expect that would grow, because you can see that there are some people who have been assessed who still want to be part of talking about quality and accreditation, which is really nice, really nice. Different perspectives. Time for one last question, and also suggestions for other topics that you might want to talk about in future sessions here. And we have them every month, and they'll be at this time and this time of the month generally. So if you have something that's challenging you or that you're excited about and you want to talk about it, we'd be happy to hear from you. Other than that, I just want to thank you so much for this hour of power. I love that people are asking awesome questions. That helps everyone. And it's just so nice to be seeing you as often as we can, because we're also across the state. So it's not easy to get around to everyone. But hey, Carolyn's finished her lunch. Hello, Carolyn. So Carolyn's in Armidale. And who's the furthest flung person at the moment? Who's the furthest away from? Would it be Catholic Care, Wilcannia Forbes? That's maybe the furthest away from us. I think so. All right. See, isn't that nice? Without this technology, we wouldn't be able to meet like this. But thanks for being part of it, my beautiful colleagues and our lovely clients. I really appreciate the time that you give to this.
Yeah, thank you.
And
Thank
thanks
you
for
very
bringing that
much.
palm tree, Kath. Good on you bringing the palm tree. I can't get enough of that. And Sonia's got her lovely artwork. Look at that. I'm looking at people's lovely artwork in there. And
It's in the office.
that's really nice, Sonia. All right. And welcome to Bernardo's, our very newest, freshest client. There we
Thank
go.
you. Thanks very much.
Is
Hello,
Anne,
Thank you.
Are you the new Penrith
Sorry,
Women's
Lisa?
Health Center? Anne is new.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
Lisa.
Hi.
Hi.
I came to your
Oh,
place.
You
Yeah.
did. Yes, I
Yeah.
remember. Yeah, thank you. Lovely. Yes. My
All right,
first.
let's do the big wave. It looks great when everybody waves.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Soon.
Okay.
Hi.
Bye.
Hi.
Got to go and pick up my car.
Okay, I'm going to tennis. So yeah, I
Nice to
finished.
see you.
I know. I finished my ISO early, so.
And who was it that's joining us from Port Stephens Family and Neighbourhood Services? Say hello to me. I wasn't quite sure who was there.
Mm,
Who is that there?
May. I'll let you go.
All right, darling. See you.
Bye.
Bye, Port Stephens.